Tech by Tips.
Welcome to another Tech by Tips video. On today's video, we're going to continue our series of Introduction to Azure DevOps, but we are going to be focusing on the backlog. The backlog is another of the sections that are inside the boards. So we're going to still be talking about the boards section of Azure DevOps, but we're going to cover specifically a very important part, which is how we manage our backlog, our planned work. And the backlog is great because it allows an easy way for us to create, delete, or remove work items, and to see and manage their relationships in a better way than if we create them in the work items view. And also it allows us to do things like, for example, assigning stories or bugs to the sprints that we're going to be working. So it's a good way for us to start planning that sprint by assigning those items there. And it also gives us a good way to see all of the planned items that we have created in a very organized way, because we can see all the hierarchy in a very clear way. So let's go into Azure DevOps and see how we can use the backlog. Alright, so we're in our Agile project that we have created. So let me click on the boards section, and inside the boards section we're going to go into the backlogs. By default, you see we get added to work items, which is what we mentioned before. We can click here on backlogs, and then we see we currently don't have anything here, but this is where we're going to be working. Let's start here by creating some work items. But we have a problem here that if we click here, we can only see features and stories. So we have to fix that before we even start, because I want to make sure that we can also create epics. So we go into our gears section here, and then we make sure that we click here where it says epics, and now we should be able to see the three levels in the backlog, which is epics, features, and stories. Additionally, now that we are here, you can specify the working days for your team. So in my case, I have it as a default, which is Monday through Friday. And if you want to change how you work with the bugs, you can do that, but that's hardly ever done. So let's save that. And now when we click here, we should be able to see epics. So we have epics, features, and stories. Let's organize by epics first. Now we can start adding work items here. So let's create an epic. So here we're at the epic level. So we're creating a new epic. And let's say that this epic is catalog. So our first epic that we want to do is to have a catalog of books. So then we say add to the top. And as you can see, we now have a epic in our backlog. But the nice thing about this is that within this Agile project management tool, we can now do other things. If you look here, we have a plus and a minus. This allows us to expand the levels and contract or collapse the levels. But if you put the mouse down here right next to the epic, look at this nice thing. It says add a feature. So that means that we don't have to create a feature and then link it to the catalog. When we click here, it automatically allows us to create a feature, but look down here nicely, it's linking it to the catalog of book epic that we just created, because we're adding this as a child of that item that we were viewing, right? So let's say that in our catalog of books, our first feature is display book shelf. And this would be a reference to have a page that displays all the books in the store. So that's going to be the idea behind this feature. And let's look at this window for a second, because there's a lot of things here that are important, right? If we're looking at a new feature, we have here to put like the name of the feature, but there are other things here. For example, you can actually assign this to a person. So if you have a group of 5 users here, you can pick the person that this is going to be assigned to, right? Ideally, you wouldn't do that in an agile environment. The team is able to pick the tasks themselves, but many organizations do assign like an initial set of items in a sprint. But this is a feature, so you wouldn't assign a feature anyway. I just want to cover the things that you can see here. It gives you a list of all the comments that have been added to this feature. You can tag things, so you can add a tag. And in here, it has the state, obviously. it's going to be new because we're not working on anything. And then in here for reason, again, new. This is just adding stuff to the backlog. And in here in the area, we have a project that we can add stuff to. So it's part of our agile project. So that's the only thing I have as an option there. Here's a very important thing. The iteration is the sprint in which you're going to be working with something, right? This shouldn't apply to a feature because the feature, it's not something that you add to a sprint. So you can basically ignore this part right now. But then down here you have the description where you would specify the details about that feature. Here you have a section where you can place comments, like have a discussion with people to better refine this feature maybe, or add details about it, or have maybe a discussion on how to break it down and stuff like that. And then here we have a priority where we have a series of points that we can assign to it. The risk level, depending on the type of project that you're working in, this could be something that involves some sort of risk for the business. You would put that in there. The level of effort is usually in points that you would specify the effort of this. And the business value is something that you can write there, like what's the purpose for the business to have this feature. Time criticality, you can put information here about how critical it is to get completed this on time. And then you can specify a start day to start working on it, and a target date where you want it to be completed. And in here in the value area, you can have also things that specify if it's a business value, architectural value, what kind of value this feature provides. And here on the right side, you would see other references to things. For example, the repositories would be in this part here, would be linked, and deployments would also be linked over here. And then with the related work, you will see the parent and the children of this feature. So this layout is going to be available basically for every work item that you create. And that's only the details view. We can go here and there's more stuff. We can go into the history and you would see history of things that have happened with this work item. You can go here into the links and then you will see the hierarchy, the parent in this case, and the children if it were to have any. And in here you have attachments. So you can put like documents or pictures or things that are relevant for this to be documented and for the team to reference, right? So you have this basically in every box every time you create a new item. So let's save this and close it. And then you'll see that it is nicely put under the epic. So if we reduce here the epic, that goes away. And if we expand it, it shows up. So this is nice because if you have several epics already planned and they have a bunch of features and stories, you can just reduce them and focus on the one that you want to work with. And it works the same with the feature. If you're highlighting the feature, you can go on the left here and add a user story, which is the next level down. And in this example, for example, we can say that we have a story, right? And then you would do the story here. As a customer, I would like to see a list of books that are available for purchase in this store so that I can pick the one I want to buy. So as always, an entity, what you would like to do and why. That's how you write a good user story normally. And then you put the acceptance criteria. For example, all the books are displayed. And all books have a link to a details page. And more things that you could put, for example, here. And as usual, you have the discussion section. And in here is a little bit of a difference. You have these story points that get assigned to the story. This is usually done in one of the agile ceremonies, which is the planning poker ceremony. Or, well, that's usually what most organizations do, but it could be many ways that you do it, where the team gets together and discuss a story, and then they assign an amount of points that references what they believe is the level of effort that this story demands. So when you're basically managing the backlog and you haven't done anything yet, you would leave this blank because you have no clue yet until you get to that ceremony. You might have a risk here. For example, this is, very important because, that's a basic thing that you need to have in your store. So it's a high risk thing. You have to make sure that that works right. And again, you have the classification here. This is not really that important. The main important thing in this types of cards is, the name, the description, the acceptance criteria, the discussion, and the story points. Priority, yeah, a little bit. But those are the main things. And in here you would see that we have a link to the parent, which is the display bookshelf. And again, this time, since this is a story, we could actually assign it to a sprint. So in this case, by default, it's going to be the first one because that's the next one that is going to be happening in theory in my organization. So we leave that there. But if we wanted, we could say, okay, this story is not going to be the first thing we're going to work with, so we're going to move it to the next sprint. So we could very well do that. So yeah, and then in here, again, we have the history, we have the links, and we have the attachments where we could put attachments that would be useful for the person working on this story to see information, or for them also to attach things, for example, screenshots of a demo or things like that. So we can save this, and once again, we see the hierarchy very clearly here, where if I want to see only the features, I can just, close this and just show the feature. If I want to see the epics, I can close this. You can also do that in another way. So you can collapse one level and it'll collapse all the stories, collapse again, and then collapse all the features, and you'll see only the epics. And then you expand and it goes like that. So that's how you add the work items here. And it's very easy because it follows the hierarchy. You don't have to link them together and stuff like that. So that's really good. So why would you have the work items then if you can do that same thing in the backlogs? Well, there's one point where you need the work items, and it's if I delete a story or a feature or an epic, the only way I can see it is if I go back into the work items and then I go into the recycle bin. When I go into the recycle bin, then I can see things that I have deleted before. So in this case, you see the things that I deleted previously in another video. So if you want to see things that you deleted, you definitely have to come back into the work items. If not, you can do basically most of the things here in the backlog. Now let's talk a little bit about customizing the backlog, because you can actually change the view and do things here. We kind of did a little bit of that by allowing the epics to show here, but yeah, you can customize it even more. Okay, so let's look at the screen and see what we have not discussed yet. Here it's where we have been working with the backlog, but if we click here where it says analytics, it'll change our view to show us analytics if we actually had any to show. In my case, we have not had any sprint going, so there's nothing to show, but you would see it here. Let's go back into, look at the top right here, and here it changes from analytics. I don't have all the same things here. So if you go back to the backlog, then you can have other options here. For example, you would say click view as board, then you would see the stuff as part of a board. Then you can change back to the view as a backlog. And then here in column options, we can change the columns that we have here in the backlog table. So for example, the work item type is one column, the title is another one, state is another one, effort, business value, etc. You can remove them if you don't need them. For example, let's say we don't need the value area one, so it removes that. And let's also get rid of the business value. You just leave it like that. And if you want, you can create your own custom ones here. So let's do that, and as you can see now it changes. We have less columns here, and if we click on the three dots here, we can also do other things that are outside of the scope of this course, so really just be aware that that's in there. Then here on the right side, we had the option here to see stuff. If we change this from epics to features, we only see from the feature down. If we say stories, we only see the stories, and you can always go back and forth between them and expand and contract as you need. There's something here that you probably see that says planning. That's related to this part here. If we click on this option that says view options, you can actually change the view by, for example, the in progress item, you can decide to hide them so they're not shown, or the completed items, you can also just not show them if you want. And if you want to keep the hierarchy with the filters, you can also activate that. And then this button on the right is the side pane. In this case, it could be off, where you don't see anything, or you can go back and enable the planning, which allows you to drag and drop things to the sprint, so you can basically plan the sprint from here. As you can see, there's a user story in sprint 1, so it allows you to do that, to manage the sprint directly in here. So you have that option. If we click here on the filter, you can use a filter here to find things. If you have a lot of epics, features, stories, etc., it might be useful to leave that filter on, because then you can just look for things, for example, the word available, and then boom, you only see that story that has that text that you're interested in looking for. So yep, that's the filter. Here we already saw the gears, where you make the working days to be established, and you decide what you want to show here in the view, and also how do you want to work with the bugs. And the last thing is here, if you want to see full screen mode, you can click here and it'll just expand the whole view. So yeah, that's all the customizations that you have here for the backlogs, and this is going to be it for this video. We're going to be moving to the next sections in the next video, but this is already getting pretty long enough, so I hope you like it, and I hope you're learning a lot, because this is very important, especially if you're into engineering or if you're into project management and you're most likely with a company that does tech. This is something that you'll definitely need, so I'm hoping that you're having fun while learning. And remember, this channel, if you like the content, it will grow when you like and subscribe, so feel free to like and subscribe and share with people. And if you want to support me to continue making videos like this, educational, straight to the point, so you can, maximize the use of your time, feel free to donate in the link in the description below through PayPal, or you can also do a Bitcoin donation, because this channel is not monetized, so you should not see any YouTube ads on my videos. So thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next one.